My name is Randall Eggert, and this is for the class, Bad Words and Taboo Terms. In a previous presentation, we introduced the notions of these three different sorts of grammars: prescriptive grammar, mental grammar, and descriptive grammar. In this presentation, the second of four, we're going to be talking specifically about prescriptive grammar. Now, prescriptive grammar, this is the one that probably most people think of when they think of grammar. This is the one that you were probably taught in elementary school, middle school, high school, where you're told what is right and what is wrong. And I just want to go over sort of four characteristics of prescriptive grammar. First of all, it's normative. It's trying to get people to conform to a certain standard, a norm. So, for example, we know that there are a lot of non-standard dialects where people use the word ain't, but prescriptivists will tell us don't do that. Don't use that word because it doesn't fit within our standard. Another characteristic is that it's imposed from on high. It's the people with power, with money, with education. Those are the people who get to decide what is correct and what's incorrect. So, for example, we have this rule that disinterested should be reserved for the meaning non-partisan, not uninterested. The masses, most people use it today to simply mean uninterested. But the elite will tell us no, it should be reserved only for when we mean nonpartisan. So, for example, the judge in a court trial should be disinterested, but not uninterested. All right, another characteristic is that this is a conservative process. The prescriptivists are very conservative. They want the language to stay the way it used to be. Right, so they don't like change. So, for example, you may have been told to use whom when you want to be proper. Right, so who is used for the subject and whom is used for the object. Now, of course, most people in speaking don't do this. I would argue that even in writing, most writers don't consistently use whom in the correct position. But when you want to be very formal, very correct, you follow this prescriptive rule and you use whom whenever it's the object. All right, another characteristic that's kind of an interesting one is that oftentimes there's a grammarian who just kind of out of the top of their head, whole cloth, invented a rule. This happened with the split infinitive rule. So we are told that we shouldn't split infinitives. Infinitives are the to plus the base form of a verb. So to go is an infinitive. And to split the infinitive would be to put something between to and the verb, as in to boldly go. Now that was actually invented. And this happened at a time when we were shifting from Latin being the scholarly language of England and moving to English as a scholarly language. Before that, scholars might have written letters to their friends and family in English, but they certainly wouldn't have written a scholarly paper in English. But at some point, of course, we started transitioning and moving to using English as a scholarly language, but the scholars kind of balked at that. And especially wherever they saw constructions in English that were not Latin-like, because they saw Latin as being the perfect language, and wherever English diverged from Latin structures, it was inferior. And in Latin, you cannot split an infinitive because it's only one word. You couldn't possibly split it. In English, because our infinitives are two words, we have the luxury of being able to split them. And in fact, we were happily splitting them for centuries before some grammarian decided, hey, I don't like that because it doesn't sound like Latin, so let's not do that anymore. And they made a rule. And you'll see it in style guides, but even the best writers today don't follow that rule because it just sounds funny to follow it consistently. So to boldly go sounds a lot better than to go boldly. So even the best writers will sacrifice being proper for sounding good. Now, getting to the topic of this class, which is swearing, of course, the main prescriptive rule when it comes to swearing is don't. So in other words, it's a proscriptive rule. We're proscribing swearing. Now, of course, we know, as I said before in the previous presentation, people do swear. And so when we start looking at it descriptively, trying to understand how people actually do speak, we have to grapple with that. We have to grapple with the fact that people swear. And it's only the people who are telling us to be proper who say don't swear. And I would bet that even they do. All right. So I will, in the next presentations, talk about descriptive grammar and mental grammar.